Hello everyone and welcome. Yes, my name is Arafire and welcome to another episode of Look Out and Shout. A little bit of an impromptu one. I wasn't planning on picking this up, but today we are reviewing X-Transbots 85 and then a load of Roman numerals, Transport Big Load. Yes, they've called it Big Load. I'm not joking. That's his name. This is their view. But this is their version of the Master X series, in particular, of a G1 long haul. Now, what I didn't realise at first, because I was so excited to get the figure, that's kind of the infamous crane scene from New York, isn't it? With all of the workmen sitting having their lunch. So I guess we're going to get that, maybe? Is it the crane scene or is it just a bridge? Is it just a standard bridge? But I just kind of looked at the skyline and I thought, oh, is that what that is? Because that'd be quite cool if it was. And with X-Transbots, you get a message on the side to which it says, every battle is won before it is fought, which is very philosophical for a somewhat mindless Constructicons. I don't know if the Constructicons were deemed as mindless. Certainly IDW portrayed them as such. You get some nice little images on the side as well, some blueprint ones, and on the back, picture of a battle going on with Motormaster, who's already been released by X-Transbots, as well as tech specs with a nice infrared as well. And inside its polystyrene shell, when you get the figure out, wow, the impact that it's got. It's so big, it's so, got that wow factor when you take it out, and it's all wrapped and encased. It looks so good. Obviously I've taken the figure out for what's inside, but what else you get with it comes with its instructions, which also has the same print on the back as on the back of the box. The instructions are quite dense because of course you're getting it into robot mode to alt mode into combined mode because they are triple changes. And inside you get his collector's card with stats on the back of it, and this one's actually in English, so you can read it if you collect such things. He comes with his normal accessories as well, which we'll go into when we have a look at the bot. But a surprisingly big box as well. I was a little bit taken back as to the size of it, but it says more about the figure inside it. Okay, let's have a look at this figure, shall we? I can't wait to get my hands on this. And here he is in his robot mode, and that has really impressed me straight out of the box. That is a very sizable bot. It might not have the die cast, it might not have all the fans, toys, bells and whistles, but if you want a big Constructicon, then look no further. This has done the job on first impressions very well. It's got that, I mean, the box is big, it's just got that stocky vibe. And I wonder, did it have to be? Did it have to be this big? In the long haul was always the bigger of the Constructicons, maybe because of his alt mode, but in terms of the combined mode, he only makes up half a torso. That's the beauty of this set being a 6-team set, so he doesn't have to have the bulk. But if they're all going to be of this size, I am totally on board with that. It's just got stocky fun. It's very nice in hand, even if the plastic to die cast ratio is less, and it is what it is. That's a bit of a shame, but if you want that fans toys quality, if you want that denser material, then you're going to pay top dollar for it. This is half the price and just looks brilliant. Probably the first thing that's a little unsightly, and you'll see more as it comes round, the back of the legs are hollow. The legs are obviously going to fold up, and it's going to be the dumpster part of the truck itself. That's going to be the hollow part. It can look hollow, but it holds the weight. There's tension in the right places. There's a nice amount of ratchets, soft ratchets, friction joints. The head sculpt is lovely. You'll see all this in a minute, but just first impressions, just getting him, he's big. He's deceptively big. You get it in hand and you think, if you've only held some of the more recent offerings from X-Transbots, like their punch counterpunch, the Carbot shapes, which is quite small, quite slender in size, and then you go to something like this, wow, yeah, I forgot how well they can do some of the bigger bots. Let's get in for a closer look. I'll bring them a bit more towards the camera. You can see that face sculpt, that head sculpt all together. Lovely reflective red eyes, and what is a very unimaginative head sculpt. It's toon accurate. I can't say it's not. This is of course a toon version, but it just catches it. My only gripe, and this was a gripe when I first saw this set release and when I saw this figure out in the wild, I wondered if that green, I don't want to say was right. There's lots of variants of Devastator's green, the Constructicons green. I'd want a more richer green, an emerald green. This is quite a, I don't know, vegetable green, maybe. It's a very pale colour. It doesn't look bad. It doesn't look bad. I would just like it to be that little bit stronger. It's very similar to the G1 figures, I would say, the original toys. This, for not being a G1 toy deco, this is very similar to it. The G1 variant is another one that X-Transbots are offering. Now again, you can see there's that kind of gappage. It's not solid around the back of the legs. The back itself cleans up well, but there is good stockiness here. And listen to some of these ratchets. That is lovely. We've got friction out on the side, a fairly stiff friction. Shoulder forward on a friction. Double bend on the elbow, which is very welcome. The hands are a little dainty, I will say that, just on proportion size. Whilst you get a nice bend at the knuckle and finger bend and you've got that grip, just looking at it, his hands look fairly small compared to the rest of his body. So a minor nitpick, but just something I've noticed. Head rotation, left and right, can't really look down, can look up a little bit. No ab crunch to speak of, but if you move up the hip skirts, nice leg articulation forward and no drooping. With, I don't want to say it's a double knee bend, but you've got this more curvature, but that's the bend you'll get out of it. Sideways on the friction. And an ankle tilt is there despite having a hollow back to it. That's more or less it though. That's what you get out of it, but when you consider the wider stance that he can hold, you can get a nice split out of it. The detailing on the figure is limited, but it is there. I like the headlights that he's got for what will be the front of the vehicle. It's very clean though, it's not littered with pinholes too much. You've got a couple here and there, but everything looks fairly composed and compact, or compact I should say. It is just done very, very well. I really do like it. And accessories, he comes with his gun, which in and of itself is quite big, which tabs in fine, fans toys take note, and there he is holding it. It's a bit unimaginative as a gun, it's only a small pistol, but it does the job, gives him the armoured look, and yeah, no drooping, tabs in nicely. It's a black gun, but otherwise it does the job. Okay, now on to some comparisons. Here he is alongside his creator, well, one way anyway, it depends how you believe the story, but here he is alongside Takara's MP46, the kind of standard bearer for masterpiece grading, and that's when you look at this sizing, Megatron is quite big, and certainly when you compare to other masterpieces, he is standing quite tall amongst the rest. This is not a small figure. This is, it might only look like it's up to his shoulder and chest, but it is large, it is stocky. When you put side by side, you see that thickness that maybe is missing from other masterpiece figures. There's a real denseness here for what is lacking on diecast, or at least, maybe not lacking is the right word, just much more in the plastic side of plastic diecast ratio. But that's how they look together. Here he is alongside Fans Toys, Robot Paradise, Acoustic Wave, their version of a G1 Soundwave, and again you can see that size difference. He's standing much closer to Soundwave than he does to Megatron. The red visor on a pair of them just looks so good. Two different companies, two different approaches, and of course Soundwave is much more die-cast orientated of the two, but that's how they look together. One of my more recent reviews, here he is alongside MMC's Medicus, their version of a G1 First Aid. So I said in my review for First Aid that I felt this was on the smaller side. They're going for Carbot scale and this just isn't. But you can see again just how different the height scale is and how big this guy is. So it's different class ranges that MMC and X-Transbots Fans Toys kind of work too. But if you want these in your collection, at least you can see how they're going to scale when they're all combined up. And if you could have Defensor going up against Devastator. And perhaps this is more in keeping. Here he is alongside Fans Toys Iceman, their version of a G1 Air Raid. That's brilliant. That's perfect matching for size, and I guess what I expect. I mean, the aerial bots did always seem a little bit bigger than the standard Autobots in the cartoon. But that being said, I've always liked the idea of all the combiners being the same height, all the combiner limbs being more or less the same height, certainly when it comes to arm bot versus arm bot, maybe torso to torso. So I like the idea of one of the Constructicon members being near enough the same height as one of the aerial bots. That just makes sense to me and looks so good side by side. And finishing off with Takara MP44 Optimus Prime. Maybe that's a little too close. Maybe I'm backtracking on what I just said. I mean, Prime's bigger, as he should be. That's a tricky one. What I've just shown you with Air Raid being fans' toys, and of course Big Load being X-Transbots, and now we're on to Takara. We've got 3 different companies. They won't be directly bang on, but maybe that's a little too close, just on first view. It's not to say it's bad. He's not taller than Prime. That would be bad. But that's how they look together. You do get a few scenes of the Constructicons and Optimus in the G1 cartoon, but not too many, so I don't think people will notice that much. Okay, let's see if this guy's got an appetite for construction, shall we? And there he is in his vehicle mode, and that is brilliant. That is a proper big truck. That's perfect. That's exactly what it needs to be. The transformation, I'm not going to tell you it was the easiest. There are some parts that seemed a little bit over-engineered. There's a lot of these little panels that fold out to give this solid back piece. A lot of these little triangular pieces that just fold out to covering gaps, so it's necessary. And you feel as you're doing it, well, why am I doing this? But the end product is a very solid looking dump truck. It's somewhat straightforward. The instructions were actually fairly helpful. The hardest part were fiddling the arms into more of a U shape to tuck underneath the cab of the car, or the drivable part of it. Anyway, it's got a couple of tabbing in issues. This gap at the front is a bit of an annoyance, and I wish there was something they did about that. But that aside, I love it. I love how it looks. It's so masterpiece grade. It's about as masterpiece grade as it could be. It looks great. Feels hefty. Big, thick rubber tyres. It's great. It really, really is. I'm so impressed with it. That presence fresh out the box transcribes into bot mode and also transcribes into alt mode as well. Let's get in for a closer look. Now what I'll try and do is I'll show you. I'm happy to admit I might have done something wrong. He slightly leans at the front because that's his, not his ab crunch, but I think when it goes into combiner mode, it's going to have the dumper section folding back to be the back of Devastator. So there's some kind of hinging going on here. There is a degree of hinging for transforming from the bot mode into this mode anyway. And it just gives that slight impression of a bit of a tilting forward on the upper section. Very slight, and again, I may have mistransformed it. I may have missed a step. But that aside, it's heffing big. I've never liked that. Back on the toy, and I just feel like it's his head popping up. And why? They're robots in disguise. I never got the purpose of that. He rolls forward nicely. He rolls back, and he drags a little bit on these front mud flaps or whatever suspensions. Just catches the tyre on the front and the back. And this gap, which is supposed to be interchangeable, and I'll show this in a minute, there's a nice diagonal divot. It's a faux chest piece, believe it or not. It actually flips inside and out. That's not the original chest of Bot Road. Because you can change it, there's no kind of clip or peg, and I wish it would, because it's just an annoying gap you can't do anything about because it pegs in at the bottom. But that aside, it's heffing big. I wish those gaps there, because they do try very hard to fill in all these gaps. There's a gap top and bottom. There's just a couple of unsightly things there, unless I've missed something again. But that aside, I just really like it. It's just exactly what I want a masterpiece scale long haul to be. Just big and ready for construction. So what I didn't show you for bot mode, but it does apply more so to this mode, he comes with 2 missile launchers, which are more or less, well, just missiles on stilts really. It's to give him a bit of a meaner look, and they go into the top here. They would peg onto his arms in bot mode, which Unfortunately, I missed off, but it does show you in the instructions. But that's how he looks with them on. Yep, construction vehicle riding into war. You would probably get out of the way if you saw a missile-carrying dump truck coming towards you. That's how he looks with them. But aha, I hear you ask, does he come with weapon storage for all of his gubbins? Yes, of course he does. He is in fact weapon storage in and of himself, which, thinking of it, makes sense. You can peg him in, and I don't think it says anywhere the gun can go from robot mode into vehicle mode, but you could just leave it in the back of him. And of course, being a dump truck, flips them all straight out again and just carries on being a dump truck. That's very nice. Nice gimmick for what he is. Now personally, I like the one he's got on that slightly jagged faceplate, but he comes with a flatter one, so it's just pure flat cab. And to get that off, I thought this might be the case, you have to untransform him a bit. You've got a couple of pegs here that need to pry off, which you then raise up and take off the pegs at the base there, getting the new one with the pegs there, going onto the teeth. And you could argue that is a cleaner look, a much more G1 look, and it actually tabs in just a little bit better, not a lot in it. It's not much difference. I like the jaggedness of the first one, but I like this as well. There's no harm in having either or on. You just have to untransform them a bit to get it on. And again, of course, typical storage, just sits in the back. Okay, I don't know what I'm going to do for this, but onto some comparisons. Here he is alongside a typical Masterpiece Carbot with Takara Red Alert, and you can see just the difference here. Absolute chunky size of the boy. He more or less can fit inside. But not quite, slightly overhangs. But that's how he looks with a typical Masterpiece Carbot. If you were to put him in a sort of a G1 cartoon pose, he would dwarf a lot of the earlier Autobot releases. Even smaller still, here he is alongside Fanstai's Parkour, their version of the G1 Cliff Jumper. So again, very, very small, and this one will fit inside of it. Of course he can. He's literally carrying another Masterpiece figure, which I don't think I've ever said that before. But that's the size we're dealing with. I'm not sure how many episodes these two share together, but here he is alongside Takara's MP09 Rodimus Prime. And again, you can see the size. That is not a million miles off his full-length trailer. If I get him a bit side on, he's almost the length of Rodimus's trailer. That just tells you the heft that this guy is. So what are my views on Truckosaurus? It's absolutely flabbergasted me how good this is. I wasn't going to get it. I didn't know if I wanted to be part of the Devastator Wars of 2024 and beyond. Speaking of which, I will be doing a video on this channel with Graham of Primetime Toys talking about the Devastator Wars and how we've gone through them once before. We're going to go through them again. But looking at the releases, X-Transbots versus Fans Toys, that's happened before. And we're going down the route with the Constructicons as well. I wasn't sure, because I'm very, very wary of Fans Toys. I'm very wary of their build. I've had breakages. Everyone said the worst things in the world. And my last X-Transbot was the Bond James, their Punch Counter Punch, which I did a review on this channel as well. And I was fairly impressed by it. It was fine. I was very careful with it though, being X-Transbots. Not that I had any issue with it, but again, the reputation preceded them. But it was okay. And a bit the same with this. I was like, do I want to go down a route of 6 Constructicons made by X-Transbots? And I think their combiner, their Menasor, went down okay. I keep forgetting which one brought out the spare trailer. I have a feeling it was DX9 that they made you charge for it. But actually, now I'm thinking of it, that could have been X-Transbots, which was a bit of a cheeky move. But I thought to myself, do I really want to go in for this? Do I want to see what Fans Toys do? I mean, the images of their scrapper, which is looking very, very close to being done, the images that they've shown looks like a finished model, then all right, do I wait? Do I see? But then people started getting this and the images look very good, and I heard some very good things. And the price, which I'm going to bash on quite a lot when it comes to reviewing this, wasn't too bad. And I thought, all right, everyone says it's good. Maybe get one and see if you are in for this set. It's only one out at this point, so does it really hurt? And I got it. Wow. So impressed. As I said, My only nitpick, and I thought this when I saw the images, was the green. I don't know if it will come across in camera, and it's getting a little bit darker now. It's a very pale green, which again is very similar to the original G1 toy. But I would have liked it to have been a bit more of an emerald green. If you can remember the Combiner Wars Devastator box art, I remember the figure didn't match the box art, but that again was a very strong green, and I kind of want the Constructicons to be that, just my personal preference. He also has very small hands compared to the proportion of his body in bot mode. Maybe a tiny bit more ankle tilt for articulation, maybe. But there is still some good ones there. The leg articulation is pretty good, generally speaking. The knee bend, I like the ratchets being used, the double elbows. That's a minor nitpick. Transformation was actually not too painful. Couple of parts just wanted to be a little clever for its own good. I wish this faux chest piece that you can change two of had a bit more of a top latching in thing. There is something behind it, but I don't think you can do anything with that. I'm sure someone will correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, but I would like a clasping mechanism that it just clips into, which of course you probably break as you take it off. But for sheer fun and presence, I mean, I like just big bots. It's a big dump truck. It's fine if you just want to have it in dump truck mode, but it looks so good in robot mode. I love things like the tilting back to get the actual dump truck motion. I think that's great. It's big rubber tires with pretty decent ground clearance. It tabs in the right areas. I was quite pleased with that going through transformation. It was securing some things in. Nothing felt like it was going to break, but again, the stigma of X-Transbots, I didn't push it too hard. I kept it all neat and tidy. I'm very pleased with the results. Now let's get on to the price point. I think Fans Toys will do a better job of the bot modes, and I think they will look nicer. I think they do look nicer, in as much as I think the purple being used looking fantastic. But there's rumours that Scrapper's going to cost £200. And I just think that's a lot of money for one bot, considering it's a 6-bot set. I did it with Kane Toys. I'm not wild about dropping £1,000 per combiner. And yes, it's over a period of time. But I just think this guy retailed, original release at £80. For that price, just get it. Just get it. And second-hand market prices now are much higher than that. It's worth it. It's worth 100. It's worth half that Fans Toys price. You're not getting that denseness that you were thinking you were going to get. You aren't going to get that all bells and whistles. Maybe the door doesn't open. Maybe it does have that tiny bit of lean that I mentioned, which of course could be me. Maybe it won't look as tune accurate as you might like, but it is doing all the things right. It's a bit like, I guess, with Janssen and Tesla, the Preceptor War, singular, finger, you're probably fine either way, whichever one you choose. And I get the impression the same with this, because this is such a good job. I can't criticize it. I can't criticize X-Transbots because it does a good job. And I feel it's the same with the Preceptor that came before it. If you went with their Janssen, X-Transbots Janssen, over the Fans Toys Tesla, you're probably still very happy with your purchase, because neither one really wins that. And I think when Fans Toys Long Haul comes out as a singular figure, would it be any better than this? I don't know. I'm really impressed. Just for sheer presence, the accessories, fair ease of transformation. There's a sense of fun to it, but the presence from start and finish in both modes, I'm very happy to have it in a collection, and I will continue to see how it goes down the X-Transbot line. And I might be feeling a bit generous, but based on this, I'm giving this 4.5 Rodimus Star Badges. It's just wowed me. It's just really got my attention. Maybe a bit of a deduction in point for the name of it, Big Load. I think, okay, God knows what the next one's going to be called. But I'm really pleased to see when X-Transbots do it right. It's nice when you don't have to moan and complain. And it's nice that it doesn't cost as much as it could have, and some others will charge. That's always refreshing when it comes to third-party Masterpiece. You can get a good figure for not half the world. And that's why it's a recommend from me. And there we go. That is my review of, I'm going to say it again, X-Transbots Big Load, their version of a G1 Long Haul. I'll put some photos up at the end. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and hit that subscribe button, because I will see you on the next one.